What is happening, everybody? Joelsuf coming your way. This is rebooking the Nexus, the final part. Finally, it's over. I finally scripted everything I needed to script. May not be perfect, but it's just gonna be fun to go through anyways. So at the end of the last part, I ended it with Armageddon 2010, where a whole bunch of stuff happened. I unified the WWE and the Nexus Stampede wrestling titles, and I had Punk defeat 5 other guys in a 6-man Hell in the Cell match to capture that, as well as a whole bunch of other stuff that took place. And on the Raw after Armageddon, the first hour, because before Armageddon 2010, it was agreed on that Nexus Stampede, which was owned by Bret Hart, could have 1 hour each on Raw and on SmackDown. And it was also agreed that Armageddon was completely NSW, completely Nexus Stampede. It had nothing to do with WWE. It had WWE guys, but it's almost like the brand split, okay? Only it's like for real. Only it's like uses different websites and different stuff like that, different pay-per-view distributors, even that kind of stuff. So yeah. So on the Raw after Armageddon, the first hour belongs to the Nexus. And Bret Hart comes out and he says that, look, Armageddon did the exact same kind of buys as any other WWE pay-per-view. Only it used its own separate marketing teams and stuff like that, and other staff that were had nothing to do really with WWE. And he also says that things are the way they are in 2010 going into 2011, the same way they were in WWE in the mid-90s, in 1995 going into 96, in that can't just rely on older talent who was relevant maybe 10, 15 years ago. Now you gotta focus on younger guys, and that's going to be the motif of sorts for Nexus Stampede going forward. Going into 2011, you're going to see a few established people. Edge is going to be on it, and I think I'm going to have Kane on it and stuff like that, and some other guys who can still kind of work, but they're going to be making younger guys who are in, because FCW is like, if you've watched the FCW documentary on the WWE Network, you'll know that it still existed in 2011, and in fact, a lot of the people who came out, who you see, I don't want to say today, but like we saw in 14, 15, 16, all those guys were in FCW 5 years before, in 2011. Why not give them a bigger platform? And the Nexus is going to be that bigger platform. So yeah, and McMahon comes out, and he says to Bret, "I agree. I'm not going to disagree with anything you're saying. I'm not even going to disagree with your methods, because competition within WWE is what we need to have. It's just like the brand split, only it should be for real. It should be exactly like it was in 2002 to 2005. Whenever really the brand split, the first one, lost its relevance. I'd say it lost its relevance about 2006, but that's just me. Like by 2006, it was like, whatever. But before then, it was like, yeah, you had a Raw and you had a SmackDown, and here you're gonna have a WWE and you're gonna have a NSW. So that's what happens, and then the Brothers of Destruction come out. Both Undertaker and Kane. They both come out for a surprise appearance. No one knows about this. And they don't come out to music either. It's completely shoot. And they break kayfabe. And they say to McMahon, like Undertaker says to him, as well as Kane. And they're both like wearing like they both look like they are working backstage. So Undertaker doesn't come out to the gong or anything like that. Kane doesn't have a mask. He has like he looks like corporate Kane in 2014. And they both say that McMahon, look, you cannot trust Bret Hart. He's going to screw you. He's going to use NSW to try to take over WWE. And you know this because he harbors a lot of animosity towards you. But then they jump. Well, they don't jump right back into character. But then they challenge the NSW Tag Team Champions, Bray Wyatt and Joe Hennig. Yeah, I'm using their better names. I'm not using Husky Harris and Mike McGillicuddy. No, we're using Bray Wyatt. And Bray Wyatt's actually going to start entering his Bray Wyatt character too. Joe Hennig, he's just going to be Joe Hennig because that's who he should have been all along. You don't need to call him you don't need to call him Mike McGillicuddy or Curtis Axel. No, you just call him Joelsuf Hennig. Just Joe Hennig. That's who he should be. And they're the current NSW tag champions. And they challenge those guys to a match for their titles at SmackDown. So, yeah. Alright. So, SmackDown. After Armageddon. And and to end the segment, actually Bret Hart actually gives him the opportunity. Bret Hart says, look, I want you to work with these younger guys. No one respects you two more than me. And work with my younger guys. If you want, you can even go for their title. You want one more run of the titles. Do it. Go for their tag team titles. So, the Brothers of Destruction win the NSW tag team titles from Wyatt. Whoops. And this is where you start seeing Bray Wyatt come into his character that he had been developing. If you've watched the FCW documentary, you'll know this. He was developing the Bray Wyatt character in early 2011. He just kind of did it as a joke during promo class when Dusty Rhodes was still running FCW and stuff like that. I think he was. I don't remember. It's funny because I watched the FCW documentary before doing this entire thing, before part 1. I should have watched it again. But I know he was doing it. I knew he was doing those kind of promos. And so after he starts talking cryptically. He says, "Oh, Undertaker, your legacy will be within 5 years. Your legacy will be forgotten. Your streak at WrestleMania will end. And I don't know if it's going to be at my hands, but it'll be at someone else's." That kind of stuff. He'll say that. Joseph Hennig just kind of leaves. Whatever. And then Cena beats Punk. In a non-title match. And then a big brawl takes place between the WWE guys and the NSW guys over that title and over the Intercontinental, US, European, and TV titles. Because those are... the European and TV titles are from NSW. And so it's almost like co-branded feuding, almost. And this comes to a head at the Slammies 2010. So Slammies... which is co-branded. That's going to be both WWE and Nexus. So Hart wins GM of the Year. And in his speech, he actually admits, that yes, he wants to somehow replace WWE with NSW. In some capacity. And he proposes that NSW and WWE each have a pay-per-view before Mania 27. So the way it's going to work, it's going to be Royal Rumble is going to be WWE, NSW is going to have the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. And again, it's going to feature guys from both brands, but whichever one does more buy rates, as well as Mania 27 being 2 nights, one with WWE and one with NSW. Yes, we're going to start the 2 nights now in 2011, because 2011 was when WWE started putting out these longer shows. Like, I think WrestleMania 27 was like 4 hours long. You know, that really could have been 2 hours on Saturday, 2 hours on Sunday. We're going to start that here because we all know what happened after, especially after the WWE Network came out. That's when WrestleMania started being like this big marathon of a show that lasted like 8-9 hours. Ridiculous. That's why WrestleMania this year needed to be 2 nights. I mean, pandemic or not, in fact, especially without pandemic, it would have been 2 nights. In fact, the fact that it was 2 nights was almost like designed for shows to be the way they were before all this stuff started happening. You know what I mean? Why not start it early? You know what I mean? Why not start it early? So, yeah. And then McMahon and Shawn Michaels agree, stuff like that. So, now there we have it. So, that's how it's going to be. That's how it's going to go down for 2011. So, Royal Rumble 2011. It's going to be the same as what actually happened. You have 40 guys, and instead, Punk agrees to put his title on the line if he comes in at 40, number 40. It's also going to have 20 WWE guys and 20 Nexus guys. Booker T and Nash are still surprise entrants. There we go. And instead of Alberto Del Rio winning, which should have never fucking happened, the winner of the 2011 Royal Rumble is who I wanted to win, which is CM Punk. Punk wins after eliminating. And yes, this is going to... You're going to see that when the Nexus concludes with WrestleMania 27, is that it's going to jumpstart the Summer of Punk. The Summer of Punk really should have started directly after WrestleMania 27, okay? And Punk versus Cena, the feud, should have started when 2011 started. And that's exactly what we're seeing here. Alright, and let's see, I have Sheamus retains the IC title against Kofi. We have Morrison retains the U.S. title against Truth. So yes, we're gonna see the Morrison and Truth rivalry, which started around this time too. Only it's gonna be for an actual title because should have been. Hart Dynasty tag titles against the Usos. And for the ladies title, Michelle McCool retains against Kelly. And I think I said this in the last video, but what you're going to see with Nexus Stampede Wrestling is that their women performers are going to be like the ones you see today. So WWE is going to have like the supermodel girls, and NSW is going to have the girls who actually want to get out there and put it and work good matches. You know what I mean? Like, so you're going to see AJ Lee, you're going to see Caitlyn, who in my opinion they were like the WWE women's movement, whatever, Divas Revolution ladies before that took place in late 2014, before Charlotte came in, before Bayley came in, before Sasha came in and stuff like that. Yeah. So before them, it was AJ Lee, it was Caitlyn, and it was Paige, and of course Natalya and stuff like that, and Beth Phoenix and stuff like that. Yeah. So you're gonna see the women who actually want to go out there and put out good matches on NSW. You're gonna see the women who just want to look good on WWE, and you're gonna see a very big contrast. Like, fans would probably cheer a little bit more for. Eventually, they would cheer more for the NSW ladies versus the WWE ladies, because if you look back at the ladies in WWE in 2011, 2012, whatever, they don't get a reaction. And it's true. And that was a big, that's what caused the Divas Revolution in WWE, is because, they were just, it was old hat. You know what I mean? It was like, it didn't age well. It was just like, these women putting on like meh matches. And they don't know how to work any good matches. So you're going to see the workers, you're going to see the women, the female workers on NSW. So there you go. That is Royal Rumble 2011. Oh, wait. Oh, whoops. No, that's not it. Okay, yeah. Cool. And again, this was WWE, was not NSW. So there's no European title being defended. There's no NSW Ladies title being defended. There's no NSW Tag title being defended. And there's no European title being defended. Nothing like that. That will happen, however, in Elimination. Oops. So Elimination Chamber is NSW branded. So this is where you see. So, their TV title. Tyler Black is before Seth Rollins. Beats Drew. Beats Drew McIntyre. Lealki. That's right, before Roman Reigns, who is Lealki, retains against Wade Barrett. There we go. Now I got even more here. Yeah, this is where I messed up when this is where I messed up. But it's okay. We're going to figure it out. So, yeah. Okay, cool. Alright. Tag titles. So, Wyatt and Hennig. They beat the Brothers of Destruction to get their tag titles back, and then they'll move on to other stuff. And then we have the chamber match, or actually ladies title. Yeah. So in the ladies title, Beth Phoenix retains against, we're going to have Natalya. I want them to stay with their feud. They've always had good chemistry together, and I think if you're gonna have younger workhorse ladies in NSW in Nexus, then you're gonna want them to watch and pay attention to Beth Phoenix working with Natalya. I think among all the crap that you saw with the ladies 10 years ago, Beth Phoenix and Natalya really rose to the occasion, and they made the Divas title back then, actually made it made it a little bit more relevant than, or a little less irrelevant than it would have been if they were not around. You know what I mean? So yeah. Okay, and now the chamber match, or actually, yeah, and Punk has the night off from this. So yeah, now you got the chamber match. So the chamber match, just like Elimination Chamber did for a while, I think it was for a couple of years in a row, was that it determined the number one contender for the other main title. So Royal Rumble determined the number one contender for either the WWE or World title, and after that was settled, then you had the chamber match, and that was for the other title, for the WWE or World title, one of those two. You know what I mean? So this is going to be similar, only it's going to feature the guys who have the smaller titles. So it's going to have Sheamus, Morrison, and Cena, because he just got an invite. He won a qualifying match. There you go. And Miz, who also won a qualifying match. And if you had the other singles titles, you were already qualified for the chamber match. And in this match, Cena wins. Will face Punk at Mania 27. Sorry, Miz, but you're not going to have your WrestleMania moment. Not yet. Not yet. Not yet. It's coming. It's coming. Trust me. As far as Orton, and I'm leaving a lot of guys out here, Orton, Daniel Bryan, stuff like that. Again, I'd rather see guys like Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns in these kinds of matches to see if they could work, even as early as 2011, because they were both in WWE in 2011. They were in FCW. And so you're going to see more of this. Okay. Whew. Let's keep going here. So the Raw After Chamber. And of course, Orton and Bryan and Mark Henry and all them, they'll get there. They'll get this, and Jack Swagger and Dolph Ziggler, they'll get their spot eventually. They'll have their days, but not now. Because it's hard to book all this stuff. You know what I mean? So the buy rates. So both GMs review. Whoops. Oh, whatever. Review their buy rates. It seems that Elimination Chamber had the bigger buy rate. Oh ho! By like a very small margin, by like thousands of dollars. Okay, like by literally like maybe like 100 more buys than Royal Rumble, but it had the bigger buy rate. Holy crap! What does that mean? And McMahon, that SmackDown can be completely Nexus Stampede Wrestling if they choose. You can have your own roster. You can make your own kind of matches. It'll be completely different. And like you'll have your own broadcasting and marketing committee and stuff like that. It can be its own entity until WrestleMania 27. Until Mania 27. And on that show, oh, there you go. Yeah. All right, 1 minute. That's all I want to say. There. Okay, cool. All right, nice. So now instead of SmackDown, it's called Stampede. Hart announces, so I'm not going to go over the complete roster, but yes, this is where the brand split is actually, it's not even brand anymore. Now there's WWE and there's Nexus. And Bret Hart says that, look, I'm going to bring in four new guys who can work with the younger guys. And of course, most of them are Canadian because Bret Hart's Canadian. No, two of them are Canadian. So Edge, Kane, Beth Phoenix, who currently has the Nexus Stampede Wrestling ladies title, but this is now permanent. That was like before this, it was just, it's kind of on both shows, you know what I mean? And everything was commingling, but now it's like, no, like, you're not going to see Beth Phoenix on WWE TV. You can only see her on Nexus Stampede. Beth Phoenix and returning Trish Stratus. That's right. This is how Trish Stratus is going to make her 2011 return. Or that, cameo that she had. Because I really think that they did her, like, deeply wrong at WrestleMania 27. Having her with with the Jersey Shore people was dumb. Like, it was really, really stupid. If you're gonna have her return, you may as well have her return in a more prominent role. And why not have her work with younger ladies who can learn from her? Because I'm telling you right now, like, and I said this earlier. I said this in another video way back when I did my memories video on Trish versus Lita. Trish was the woman who could do it all in WWE. She could do it all. She could have the gimmicky shit, and then she could turn right around and have a no disqualification match with Victoria where she drew color. You know what I mean? Like, and she did that all in the same calendar year, 2002. It's ridiculous. Why not have her work with these younger ladies? Why not have her work with AJ Lee and Caitlyn and Naomi and who else? Man. And who else? Oh my god. And Paige. And even Charlotte Flair even. I think she was in FCW at this time, wasn't she? Yeah. So, have her work with them. It's good. Anyways. Then CM Punk comes out. And don't forget, he's the unified champion. He does the pipe bomb here. He completely spoils Rock's return. We're still going to have Rock's return. He says, I know Rock's coming back, and he wants a match at WrestleMania 28 versus John Cena. He wants a match to be booked for him a year in advance. Meanwhile, I have the title. And that kind of stuff. And he says similar stuff too, and Bret Hart just lets him do it. He lets him go off. And that's what Hart says. He says that with a grin. He says, I've allowed somebody to be a special guest tonight. You might know him as the Undisputed Champion, CM Punk. Yeah, that kind of stuff. So, that was my Bret Hart voice. So, there you go. And does that hurt the ratings? Well, probably. But, also says, he can go anywhere, since he is not only but is in Hart's good graces. And he's in Hart's good graces because, both of them, like, they're both pretty bitter about how they've been treated. You know what I mean? Like, Punk will say that he got screwed over, you know what I mean? That kind of stuff. And Hart's like, yeah, I got screwed over too, that kind of stuff. So, because Bret Hart can just literally do whatever he wants with this show, he'd be like, yeah, let's put on CM Punk. You know what I mean? Why not? Okay, so February 14th Raw. Rock comes out, is announced as the host of WrestleMania, just like what actually happened, only Punk interrupts him. Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. And so after he says that, he says, look, I'm unified champion, but that doesn't mean I have to wear this title, CM Punk says. So Punk, at the end of the show, Punk throws the WWE title into the trash, signs an NSW contract. There you go. So as you can see, it's still interconnected. It's still, you have a WWE and you have an NSW, but they're still connected. There's still some connections going on. And there's still a lot of feuding going on between the two. And this is how it should have been with Nexus. It should have been its own organization. It should have been like I don't want to say a rehash of the invasion, but it should have been almost like a retelling of the invasion is what they should have had. And I'm trying to make it more intense here. So that's right. Only this time, he wants a match with CM Punk because of what happened of him throwing the WWE title in the trash. He says, "Look," Rock says, "Look, I was gonna challenge John Cena to a match at next year's WrestleMania, but then I saw what Punk did on TV the other night, spoiling The Rock's return and throwing the WWE championship into the trash. You know, that kind of stuff." And he says, like, yeah. And Rock says, "You know what, Punk? I want you at WrestleMania 28. To which Cena interrupts. That will not happen. Because I'm number one contender for Punk's title. Whether he wants to wear it or not." Cena says, "Look, I've been carrying the ball that you dropped. And you hear this stuff here. You get this interaction now in 2011. Not a year after. Like, not, oh, we have to wait an entire year for... No, let's have it go now. Let's have it happen right now." Cena says, "Look, I don't care if Punk threw away the title. They can just make a new one and give it to me for all I care. Doesn't matter. But I don't want to face him to put him in his place. To tell him that he can't just mess with WWE. He can't just throw WWE under the bus like this. It's either going to be you or me, Rock. But I want Punk at Mania 27. I earned it in a chamber match. Where's the match that you earned? You didn't earn anything. You're just coming out here saying you want matches because you're The Rock. Because 12 years ago when WWE didn't have any stars to make, you were right there, right place, right time. When Austin got injured. When Triple H was still trying to make his way. When Shawn Michaels had to take time off. Who was there? You were there. If I was there, I would have had the same kind of opportunity, and you know that, Rock. So now you say this. So the match is made. It's going to be Cena, Rock, at Mania 27. Not at 28. We're going to make it at 27. Winner gets Punk. Okay, cool. So, I'm going to skip most of the TV shows in between that go into WrestleMania. So, something else also around this time is that the Shawn Michaels versus Bret Hart rivalry documentary, or shoot interview thing was filmed. You know, where Jim Ross sits Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart down. That's still going to take place, but now, because Shawn Michaels is still the GM of Raw and of WWE, so he's still making matches there. At the very end of the show, at the end of that shoot interview, Jim Ross actually asks Bret Hart. He says, "Do you want to completely take over WWE, and do you want to like completely like make sure it doesn't exist anymore?" To which Hart says, "You know, I did before, but now I see that Shawn's running his show and he's doing a pretty good job. He's making it an entertaining show. I just want fans. I just want to make sure that we don't rely on superstars from back in the day. I don't want an old school Raw." He even says this. He says, "Look, like my heart breaks when WWE has to bring in these guys from 10, 15, even 20 years ago who, like, yes, they made their contributions, but let their contributions be their contributions. Let's have the younger crowd have some contributions now." He talks about Seth Rollins, and he talks about Roman Reigns, and he talks about Dean Ambrose, and he talks about all these FCW guys. And he says, "Look, if you go down to Tampa, you'll see these guys working hard, and they're doing things. They're working in ways that I could never work. But they're working in ways that Shawn was working in the 90s, and now it's becoming commonplace." And Hart says, "Look, it's going to become more about match quality than anything else, and I'm a big supporter of that. And that's why I created Nexus Stampede. It's because we need more unpredictability. We don't need guys that are like me or like Shawn or like Rock or like Triple H or like Austin or like Undertaker or like Kane or even Edge." He even mentions Edge. He says, "Look, Edge is 37 years old." This is in 2011. And Bret says, "Look, Edge was talking to me about retiring because he can't work anymore. He can't work he can't work the way he used to be able to work back in the early 2000s and the mid 2000s. He either wants time off or he wants to retire, and I want to make sure that a current day version of Edge is around so that I can mold them, so that I can create them, so that I can show them the way. And we're doing that at NSW." And then he says to Shawn, he says, "Are you doing that over at WWE?" To which Shawn Michaels says, "You know, not really." And then Shawn says to Bret, he says, and this is during the documentary, this is during the Bret versus Shawn shoot interview. He says to Bret, he says, "You know, I'm really glad that you've been given this opportunity, and I'm really glad that you now have your own TV show with your own little team and stuff like that." And Shawn Michaels is like, "You know, I came back in 2002 with that exact same kind of mindset to make younger guys, but I think somewhere along the road I lost that, and I've been looking for one last little claim to fame." And then he announces in the shoot interview, he says that he's going to step down as GM after WrestleMania 27 because he wants to back off now. He wants to ride off into the sunset. He actually wants to retire. He even says, "Look, like how many times has Terry Funk retired and came back, you know?" And they said, "Oh, you know, I felt really betrayed when Ric Flair was on the other show." They still can't mention TNA Wrestling or Impact, but you know, but he does say it. He says, "Look, Ric Flair retired in 2008, then he comes back on another TV show in 2010." You know, like I don't understand that. Then he talks about Foley too. He talks about Mick Foley. Says, "Oh, Mick Foley swore he retired in 2000. Comes back as GM. Comes back for a match against Orton. Comes back for a match against Ric Flair. Comes back for some other matches in some other organizations." And Michaels says, "You know what? I'm going to make sure that retirement in wrestling actually means something. And it means no more on-screen appearances, No more working matches. None of that stuff. And, you know, they shake hands or whatever. And that ends. So, now we have WrestleMania 27. And again, this is 2 nights. 2 nights. Not 4. 2. So night 1. Night 1 is NSW. We have the tag titles with the Hart Dynasty. That's right, they jumped over to NSW. Beats Hennig and Wyatt. Who you'll see, they'll split after this probably. All kinds of stuff's going to happen after WrestleMania. Got a 4-way elimination match. For the ladies' title. Beth Phoenix beats AJ Lee, Caitlyn, and Trish Stratus. And CM Punk comes out. He's still the champion. Don't forget that. So in a segment, comes out and calls out Rock. Wants an unsanctioned match. Says, look, enough of this. We don't care about this whole Cena versus Punk and then Rock gets the winner. Like, screw that. I'm going to have my match against Cena later on, but I want a match against you regardless. And Rock doesn't come out. He just doesn't come out. Like, whole minutes go by. And Punk starts, like, trashing Rock. Starts calling him, he calls him Dwayne. He says, look, Dwayne, like, we don't want you here. We don't want you here. You left WWE to do movies. And I really think that your gimmick, your Hollywood gimmick in 2003 is the closest thing we'll ever see to Dwayne Johnson than anything else. You weren't real when you were The Rock, when you were Rocky Maivia, when you were Futz Kavana. No, you were Hollywood Rock. You're always going to be Hollywood Rock, and these fans are never going to respect you. They're going to like you. They're going to love when that music hits, but they're never going to respect you. And then Punk just walks out. He just walks out. Walks out of the show. With a really disappointed look on his face. Really, really frustrated and upset. Yeah. Alright, European title. Drew McIntyre. Defends against Evan Bourne. The TV title. We're going to push Zack Ryder here. Yes. Barrett. And Edge defeats Dolph Ziggler. Instead of Del Rio, because I'm not booking a Del Rio at all. Like, if there's any wrestler who I like completely, totally dislike, it's Alberto Del Rio. Like, I didn't like him 10 years ago. I thought he was Hispanic JBL. And I'm like, why are you booking a guy who's... No. Like, it's dumb. Did he put on good matches? Kind of. But not really. You know what I mean? So we're not having it. No, that's not happening. And at the end of the night, so Cena beats Punk. Actually, no, wait. I'm sorry. That's going to be on night 2. Because when Punk walked out on NSW after the segment, he was scheduled to face Cena, but he just walked out of the show. So that's going to mean something later on. Okay, so Hart says match against Cena later, but Punk doesn't care. Alright, so night 2. So here's where I have Daniel Bryan. Beats Miz for the IC title. So now Bryan has US and IC titles. So he's going to have his little moment at WrestleMania 27, which can then, that can taper off into Daniel Bryan's, journey towards the WWE Unified Championship in 2014. But we're going to give him a good moment here because he did get kind of screwed out of having that kind of thing against Sheamus at WrestleMania 27. That was highly documented. That was, I think, a dark match. And they put on a really good match. So, yeah. Here's what we're going to have. We're going to have Sheamus winning. The very first, we're going to have the Andre the Giant Battle Memorial here. There we go. So yeah, so the winner of the Andre the Giant Battle Royal will be, you'll be able to face either the U.S. or the Intercontinental Championship, U.S. or the Intercontinental Champion on Raw next night, and Sheamus has that choice. So there you go. Make the Andre the Giant Battle Royal mean something instead of having it not mean anything. You know what I mean? So there you go. So we're going to have Christian beat Randy Orton. It's going to set up their feud for the summer. Mysterio beats Del Rio. There you go. We're still going to have Undertaker versus Triple H. For the ladies title, Kelly retains against Eve Torres, which no one cares about. For the tag titles, the Usos retain against Kofi and Santino Marella. They call themselves Cobra Kofi because why not? And I think that'd be really cool to see them in a tag team. You know what I mean? Like Kofi would be like the big high flyer guy, and then Santino's like the comedy dude. Like that'd be kind of cool. At the very end of the night, Cena comes out, and he wants a match with Rock. He says, "Look, Punk walked out last night. That doesn't mean that I can't have a match with Rock tonight. I know Rock's in the building. I saw him earlier. I saw him chatting with Austin earlier because they still had that little segment on WrestleMania 27. And he says, look, Rock, look, let's just have a match. Let's just have a damn match. Let's have it now. I don't want to wait a year. I don't want to wait for you to get over your ring rust. If you have ring rust, trust me, it'll show. So don't worry about it. You've always had ring rust." You know, he's kind of a little shot at Rock there. But then CM Punk comes out. No music, nothing. Has 3 security guards with him. So, Cena versus Rock, or Cena versus Punk, happens with the security guards at ringside. Then Rock comes out. The 3 have a brawl when the security guards they have like masks and stuff like that. Very similar to Paul Heyman's security team way back in WWE and WWECW. Like months before Heyman left in late 06. I don't know if you remember that. He had these really lame security guards who had like, these helmets and stuff like that. Yeah, those are the kind of security guards that CM Punk has here. So, beat up, attack, Punk, and Cena. The security guards take their helmets off to reveal that they are Reigns, Rollins, and Ambrose. Yes. We're doing the Shield a year and a half early at WrestleMania 27. Absolutely. Yes. They're going to help Punk just like at Survivor Series 2012. And they're going to beat up the 2 guys that Cena cannot stand. John Cena and The Rock. Absolutely. That's what's going to happen. Good stuff. And that is the curtain call to WWE WrestleMania 27. There's still no title. CM Punk threw it in the trash. And that is the end of the Nexus, because at Raw the next night, the buy rates for night 2 of WrestleMania were like way better than night 1, because night 1 didn't have anything. Night 1 didn't have anything because it wasn't supposed to have anything. It was supposed, the big thing was Cena versus Cena versus Punk, but there were way more matches on night 2, and yeah, it had guys from back in the day, you know what I mean, Christian, Orton, Mysterio, Undertaker, and stuff like that. But the matches were way more organized. And, you know, and yeah, so on Raw the next night, Bret Hart says, look, I banked on one match for WrestleMania. It was CM Punk versus John Cena. I even invited John Cena. I said, look, challenge for the WWE title on my show because it'll make more money. It didn't, and now I want to step down too as GM of Nexus Stampede. It was an experiment and it didn't go right, and to all the fans who enjoyed it, I'm sorry, and stuff like that. Then Vince McMahon on Raw next night says, look, I appreciated what you did, because I appreciate competition from anywhere. It doesn't matter. And McMahon says, look, let's redo NXT. And let's do it right this time. Let's make it its own show. Let's put you in there with Dusty, because Dusty was still doing FCW. And let's turn FCW into NXT. And then this, of course, one thing leads to another with the way I ended this booking, and now we get to see the Summer of Punk will start early. The Shield will start early because all 3 Shield guys were in WWE in 2011. All of them. All 3 of them were there in 2011. They were there, and if their only role for a year and a half is just to, be with CM Punk and beat up CM Punk's opponents and not have their own matches until maybe the beginning of 2012, then why not? And all 3 of them were really good workers anyways to start. So why not start the Shield early? Nothing was going on in 2011. 2011 WWE was awful. Okay, it was piss poor. Okay, and it really would have been way better if the Shield started then and not in late 2012. So as one thing ends, another thing begins. And yes, I am going to rebook. I'm not going to rebook the Shield because the Shield in WWE was the only thing that WWE really booked well during that era. You know what I mean? So yeah. So that is how I would rebook the Nexus. I know it was 4 podcast-ish type videos, but it was a project of mine. And I'm sorry that I was late in uploading most of these videos. But I hope all of you enjoyed this. I'm going to rebook a few things here. But I'm going to take some time off doing that. And yeah. So there you go. Alright, everybody. Hope you all enjoyed listening or watching or whatever. I will see you in the next video. Take care.